Isn't common sense supposed to be common? The struggle is real, my friends. The Kate Daly Show starts now.
Is that tax money that the Fed is spending?
It's not tax money. We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Is that tax money that the Fed is spending?
It's not tax money. We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Is that tax money that the Fed is spending?
It's not tax money. We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Be about the obvious by now. You've seen the markets this morning and the bloodbath that's going on in gold and silver. Coordinated price increases like this may look like they're legitimate, but they're actually not. I think as you look at, you know, the AI guy, Asian guy, and you look at social media and these new sort of accounts coming in and just pumping silver and gold, and all of a sudden you have this crash. You have to wonder who's behind those accounts. I put my face on camera. I put my name out there. I brand it as.
Seems there might be some manipulation going on. That was some of the commentary. You'll find that on the newamerican.com on gold. So that was kind of an interesting one, and got a lot going on. In fact, welcome, and I hope your Monday is as good as our Monday. It's a Monday, though, for sure. I'm feeling it today. How are you, Dr. Duke Pesta?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
You betcha. So, well, where do we start? So it's interesting. A lot of the headlines, some crazy town happening, of course. Come on, there always is. But I do want to mention a trend I've been seeing. Is anyone else seeing this too? Woman thought she was buying a puppy. She's ambushed, shot, and a lot of like articles on Facebook meetups. If you sell something on Facebook, you could be shot. It's weird because of the influx of articles like that. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I mean,
this is weird.
It does seem like there's violence is the new norm, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, we're a culture with no ability to listen to each other, no ability to consider ideas that are different than ours, the rampant mental health issues on the streets that are not being addressed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then the fact that, and I think this is important, you have in a lot of blue states, you have these Soros AGs who, or what's going on with Mondami in New York, they don't want to prosecute. They don't want to, especially for quote unquote crimes from certain BIPOC communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you are shoplifting in the name of George Floyd or whatever, there are no really enforcement for this kind of stuff. Just like under Biden for 4 years, you had no stops at the border at all. So, and so you're bringing in an element into this country who has basically been told that we want you here and we don't care what you do. We're going to keep you here. I mean, literally you in places like Minneapolis, you have people actually defending pedophiles and drunk drivers and criminal illegals over the actual police who are supposed to be this evil force. So I'm not surprised. And I will suggest this, and tell me if I'm wrong with this. What I'm seeing among the American people is the uptick in violence is really almost exclusively on the left.
Yeah, well, I think the left is used a lot as far as they pony themselves up to be used in a lot of ways to further the deep state goals and to I think that there's a lot of people on that side that are eager to get paid and eager to be part of whatever they can be part of. It doesn't even matter for what. You see a lot of people on the left that it's like the women in combat boots that are marching around angrily for women's rights. And I'm like, you already have them. So this is not necessary. How do you explain that to somebody that's really hell-bent on marching down a street and demanding that they have rights? And I'm like, I just laugh. So I think that these people are ponied up and used by the deep state. So whenever I see the leftists doing something, I'm always going back to what are they being used for? instead of just what are they doing, it's what are they being used for? What's the next thing, you know? We've got that. And yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say exactly right. I think if it comes at us from a number of angles, but let's just start with the one that you brought up, the feminist argument, right? For 50 years in this country, we've been told women have no power. And now that Donald Trump is president, that everything he does somehow undermines women's rights. At the university where I women of color, but women generally, that women dominate all majors on college campuses and most grad fields, except, of course, the hard sciences. And so despite the fact that women really own every other aspect of college and grad school, the one thing they don't is the hard sciences. And that's what that proves that it's sexist. We own everything else, but we don't own that. So the men are holding us out. And it's a grievance culture. It's 3 generations long already, and sometimes, and it's what they're basically saying is that until you control everything, you are nothing. And you see that across the board. And you see that imaging on TV, by the way. I don't know about you. When I watch TV now, when did it happen that every single dentist pushing anything on TV is a woman now? I mean, I have not seen a male dentist in a commercial for 5 years.
Yeah.
And there's a number of places where you see that there. And so you can see how the deep state is manipulating some of this stuff. Entertainment. What went on at the Grammys yesterday is just outrageous.
Yeah.
A bunch of people living behind gated fences, screaming about open borders. I mean, the whole thing is just so bizarre.
Yeah, that's true. And I think going back to those Facebook posts, they want us to think that everyone is ready to kill everyone. And I don't believe that, though. And I resist that just because I know the media is selling it so hard. So that makes me very suspicious of why we keep getting these kind of narrowed in crazy stories, because anytime the media, anytime they're all singing the same song, I grow very suspicious automatically, just because by now we all should, because anytime they sing the same song, something's wrong with the song. And so depending on what it is, sometimes it's not all staged, sometimes it's not all one thing or another, but I know that they're trying really, really hard to get us to think that everybody is violent. I was looking at all these marches, right? And it's all these ICE marches, and these people in all these different communities are protesting ICE. And I was kind of laughing to myself a little bit, because I think the whole thing, as you know from last week's conversation, was completely staged. So looking at it from my view with Alex Preddy, looking at it from my view, I'm like, they got all these people highly charged in their own communities, even though they're only showing this incident. And they always do this, right? One incident in the country, but they're showing it all over the country as if it's impacting the entire country. And then any eager beaver that tries to say, well, I'm going to protest. Give me a reason. They jump out and they do it, and they don't even really know or understand what they're out there for. So you got all these people with signs, and you're just like, what are you doing? Like, what? Protest the deep state. I mean, that's controlling all of this. To me, I think people get sucked in so easy based on premises they don't understand, based on things that are just low hanging fruit. And there was even one going on in my community, and I'm thinking, the 20 people that showed up for this, what do they do? What if you really ask them? Do they understand what they're doing there. I don't know. It's just protesting is very strange right now. They also want to get you to think that you can't have a concealed carry at a protest, which is ridiculous. You can carry whenever and should ever when you want to defend yourself. But that's the messaging going on too.
Yeah, but there's a difference between defending yourself and inserting yourself between a car and a couple of cops. I agree with you that absolutely you're right. Have the right to conceal carry, but what Petiti was doing is something totally different. But look, you know how I know, like, you're right, that this is all a scam? Is it's all these high school and middle school kids who have been trotted out of their schools to protest ICE, right?
Yes.
Happening in your state, my state.
Yes.
And, and all these teachers are ratcheting that up. And these kids, they're out there because I mean, come on, when you were 15 years old in high school, and you had a chance to get out of class early or not even show up or miss a test to go out there, and you'd protest for anything.
Yeah.
It's exactly crazy. But help me understand this. Unless you're saying that ICE is a radical right-wing organization, like the left calls them fascist, right? We've had 2 shootings. Certainly the Rachel Good one, based on what we can tell, was justified. They're still investigating the second one. But can you give me an example, since Donald Trump took power, of the right, the so-called right, engaging in the same kind of violence? Do you see it anywhere?
No, but then again, I think what we saw with Alex Preddy was staged. I think that wasn't even the same guy. It didn't even look like the same guy to me. But so I'm looking at it from a totally different angle as far as it being staged. What would it be staged for, right? And so you'd have all these reasons. I can give you all those reasons why I think it's staged. But it's kind of fascinating because if I go back to January 6th, they had almost 300 agents dressed up as patriots, okay, lying to the public and telling them that they were fellow MAGA, okay? So you have a lot of people that are willing to lie to be on the scene and do things for a narrative. And they knew that they were lying, and they knew that they were pretending to be something that they weren't. And I think that they were instigating whatever they instigated that got into the press. That wasn't your average American. People on the right never usually go to, they don't consider themselves going to a gunfight. We're not. We're honestly just saying, hey, I don't like this. Like with the January 6th, why were they there? They were there because they wanted to get the Electoral College reading of all of the cast votes, right? And so, which never came to be for that crowd. And what's crazy is that you didn't really see your average American person that just loves the country show up to be violent. You don't see that. And you're right about that. On the left, I think they're easily used. I think you have a lot of paid protesters and a lot of people that will engage for whatever they're getting out of it. But they're also highly, highly, highly emotional, but not logical. So you've got a lot of people that are willing to ramp it up and scream and do all of these weird things. But I go back to, I do think that Alex Preddy case was staged. I think a lot of their stuff is staged that the media concentrates on. But I do think that when you see these leftists that are highly emotional and really kind of borderline insane, the things they scream, and it was the people that had the meltdown when Trump went in the first time, and they were screaming and violent and putting things on fire and doing all that kind of insanity. There are people willing to do that on the left. I don't see that on the right. I've never seen it on the right.
And that's what puzzles me.
Yeah.
And even J6, J6, part of the reason that the flow of protesters who were unarmed, were not violent, they were funneled into the Capitol building by three or four dozen FBI agents in the crowd, right? Who was kind of
300,
exactly. And so even then, I make this analogy. So the radicalized doctor, and you look at his previous videos before he got shot, was a pretty violent guy. He's not he's not the Maryland dad again over it. This was a guy who was out of control and violent, whether it was staged or not. My point here is that the same people on the left who stood behind the police officer on J6 who blew that unarmed woman's head off.
Mm-hmm.
Said that was justice. The actual victim was the poor policeman who just had to kill that woman. And she was trying, by the way, to get out of there when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
That was perfectly acceptable and justice. But people like Rachel Good getting shot in very difficult situations. I actually am stunned given how provocative and violent the left is in places like Minneapolis and Los Angeles. I'm surprised there aren't more shootings. I mean, when you're it goes back to our question that we've been talking about for 2 months. I think, to tell you the truth, I think my position looks better today than it did 3 months ago. We're in a situation now where it does seem to me that on a number of issues that the states do have to defer, according to the Supreme Court, cases that have been going on for the last 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
There is the supremacy clause. I mean, that's a real thing. You may not like it. You could say it's unconstitutional all you want, but it has been made constitutional, or at least part of our law, by the duly elected Supreme Court, right? I mean, everybody who wants to tell me that, well, this is not constitutional, and who cares if 9 guys in robes at picket, but that's the system they set up to create laws, right? And so consequently, when the local police, starting early in this year, the last year, 25, when they refused or were told to stand down, the governors of people like Waltz telling the police, you will not do anything, you will not show up, you will not enforce the law. And so ICE was there doing what they had a right to do. As they believe that absolutely, it's a federal agency, they have the right to remove illegals, particularly a criminal one. And we had all those arguments we had on your show, right? There's no right to do that.
Right.
So the police wouldn't do it. So somebody doesn't, so nobody does it. And then what do you get this? You get when the protesters know that they're illegal protests. These are not legal protests. They are illegal protests. They are occupying territory. They are closing down streets. They are throwing things and bricks and concrete slabs at federal agents. And the state itself will not enforce its own laws. I know for a fact in the state of Minnesota, if you're throwing bricks at cops, you're going to get arrested. It's against the law. And now, so that goes back to the constitutional question, right? If the states and cities refuse to enforce the law, then what recourse does government have? Well, one of them is the National Guard, right? And all those, I mean, we said we did that back in Selma, right? When Alabama wouldn't let those girls go to school, because that all the way back in the early 60s and late 50s, the supremacy clause, the idea that on some issues the feds have control. And so to wrap this up, now we're in a situation, right? Seems to me we couldn't have the National Guard in there. So we left the ICE guys by himself trying to do their jobs, and the city colluded with the protesters. So the only one thing you got two things can happen. One, the feds just surrender. Okay, we don't have to do it. You want to keep illegal immigrants, even pedophiles and rapists, you keep them. Shucks on us. That's one way you can handle it at the federal level. Or you go back where we were 9 months ago. Somebody explained to me, and I know we'll get phone calls immediately, but how is this not an insurrection? I mean, over and above whether or not that second shooting was staged or not. And that goes back to the question that triggered all of this, which is, why are we not seeing the parallel rise of the right? Why isn't the right fighting back with the same tactics? You said, and I think you're right, that conservatives and Republicans, that's not who we are. But if this is meant to be a civil war or a deep state action of some kind, and you've talked very eloquently in other times we've talked, including last week, about how everybody's being used and everybody's being manipulated.
Mhm.
And I look at what I see here,
Mhm.
and I see the violence on the left,
Mhm.
the lawlessness, the insurrection,
Mhm.
but you don't see the remedy, or you don't see something similar on the other side. And when you even look at how it seems to me the Republicans are really bad at prosecuting. They can arrest the right people like Don Lemon for making a mockery of journalism. He was a conspirator with those people.
Mhm.
But we can arrest, but we can't prosecute for some reason. So if this is indeed, all of this is a
Mhm.
global deep state,
Mhm.
I'm puzzled
Mhm.
as at the response of the right,
Mhm.
and what do they bet? What does the deep state get
Mm.
for an angry left and a passive right?
Okay. Let's go back just a second. I have a point, but I want to go back to just 1 second about the Ashley Babbitt case. Okay. That was January 6th. And you referred to her, the girl that got shot at the Capitol.
Yep.
Okay. She was, I think she's Air Force. Anyway. So Lieutenant Michael Byrd, the Capitol officer that shot her, and remember, she was just standing there. There wasn't any reason to do that. Okay. I personally, if you were to ask my opinion on that, I think that was completely 100% staged. I looked at the tape, and it's totally obvious to me that as I went through piece by piece on the tape that they showed, it was the same kind of situation as the Alex Preddy. Now, let's just say I'm right. Let's just say both are staged for just the sake of this discussion. Ashley, and I did a whole show on that, proving that I thought it was very, very staged, because right afterwards, there were a couple of guys who were sort of heading that up. Like they were, don't get close to, they were kind of like the barrier between the rest of the people and her laying there. Okay. And they weren't actually doing anything for her, but they were just talking to the crowd. They go out of the Capitol door and they're talking to the crowd at large, which is mostly conservative. And they're trying to, in my estimation, drum up violent retribution. So they're out there and they're going, a woman just got shot. They just shot a woman. A woman. Can you believe that? A woman. And this is all on tape. Okay. I'm probably not getting the exact verbiage correctly, but they were all about coming out and telling the conservatives standing there that they just shot up a woman for no reason and killed her. Okay. Now, I see that as sort of the same as the Alex Preddy case. So in the Alex Preddy case, they want both the right and the left to get very angry. Why? Because there were 6 officers on him. Remember that. And he was on all fours and he got shot and killed by them. Okay. 6 officers on one guy would never do that quickly. You would never see that happen, because even with his concealed carry, what could he possibly do on all fours with all 6 officers around him? Okay, on him. Okay. So looking at that case and looking at the Ashley Babbitt case, I think are very similar. And the object of both of them, because I just got asked this in text, what was the goal? The object of both of those cases was to drum up a violent narrative in this country. They came out immediately and concentrated on a woman. Aren't you angry? A woman just got shot. How dare they do that? Okay. I think those guys were assets. I think they were actually working for the club. And I think they came out in Ashley Babbitt case to get people riled up so that your average person on the right, who's typically not violent at all, would do something violent so they could showcase that in the media. Okay. On the left, Alex Preddy case, I think the people taping were assets. They all started and stopped filming at the same time. That was highly, highly coordinated. And then they're using the Alex Preddy case to do the exact same thing. So somebody was asking me, what are all the reasons? Why are they doing all of this? Because the one thing that you'll notice in media is this: no one is questioning the authenticity of both cases. They're only going with what happened after, but they're not saying, was it staged? Was it real? Okay. So that in of itself is an issue. Here are the 7 reasons why they did this leftist one. Okay. Now this could apply to the right too, but because we just had the Alex Preddy case, I'll list them. Number one, they want to grow their power, which grow ICE power, which won't really have much to do with illegals in the future, but turned on conservatives. Okay, mark my words on that one. They're growing the power, and Pete Hegseth came out last week and said, yes, they can use the military base for their operations now. So it was a big move. It was a big allow. Okay. Second, to sell you a perspective of a violent country that needs more government, aka digital ID. We need to up it. We need more transparency on the people so we can see exactly who is who and their background, so the cops are safe. And so we need digital ID. So they're showcasing an event propped up to engineer paid and real protests across the country. And the media is on board. Hollywood's on board big time. Now you know we're in some kind of chicanery, and Congress is on board. Okay. So that's how you kind of know that. To me, it's the biggest tell that something's wrong. Number three, to dismantle the Second Amendment by showing you a manufactured event where the guy had a concealed carry and it ultimately caused his death. See, because everyone's going, well, did he deserve it? Because, hey, he had a gun on him. So and because he was waving it around. Well, he wasn't waving it around. He had a cell phone in his hand. So they're trying to get the right angry as they already have the left angry. Okay. The left isn't even going to poke through this video, I think, to even question its authenticity, but they have them angry anyway. So they're out marching everywhere. Okay. So number four is to sell you the idea that it's better to have open borders and good-hearted illegals here than it is to throw anyone out of the country that isn't here legally. So they want you to just end it because you don't want any more violence. Number five, to keep all eyeballs on this so that we aren't looking anywhere else, right? We aren't looking at all the other stuff going on. And then six, even though it's staged, the events are to show you that lethal force can be used for thought crime because he wasn't actually pointing the gun at anybody, right, that he had. They took it out from him and then chucked it, but he wasn't actually pointing his gun or waving it around like Kristi Noem said. So I know that because I saw the video. So if I saw what I think I saw, then this is supposed to tell you that you can't even bring a concealed carry. You're not even supposed to do that. So don't, there are times when you might deserve it just because you have a concealed carry on you. So then the seventh message would be to eventually shut down protesting because it's so violent. So I think we're eventually going to get to that point. But those are some of the reasons, 7 of them, as to why I think they're doing this. But remember, and I'm sorry for being so long-winded, but remember that on the right, they tried to conjure up the crowd. And I mean, big time. They were out there. There was a couple of guys and they were out there trying to really get the crowd energized and mad. And the people on the right didn't. It was the dressed up feds dressing like MAGA that were causing a lot of the issues that the media was talking about. And so that to me is horrifying because those feds were willing to play MAGA people and conjure up a crowd. So I think that there was a lot of that going on. But I think they use it in both instances. And that's why I think both are staged.
But what I'm hearing from you, though, I am getting clearly understanding how the left is being manipulated for a reason. But even take the concealed carry issue. Okay. I am reasonably certain that there's not a single conservative who's thinking, oh, what is his name? Petiti?
Pretty.
I'm sorry, Pretty.
Pretty.
That because Pretty brought a gun, that we're all scratching our heads as conservatives and Republicans and saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't have but Trump did come out and say that, though. He's like, don't bring a gun unless you want something like this to happen. I can't remember his exact words, but it was in that same kind of mode. And I was like, interesting. That was interesting. I thought, I heard what Trump said. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember it. And I remember thinking to myself, he's talking about if you're going to interfere
on that level,
agents, when you're going to get into a tussle face to face with feds who are armed, you should be very careful. I mean, and that's just common sense, right? It's like getting pulled over and a police officer says to you, do you have any weapons in the car? And you withhold from him the fact that you are a concealed every concealed
Mhm.
person I know would say, yeah, he or she would
Mhm.
give the information to the officer
Mhm.
before he even asked for it.
Right.
And because there's a lot of responsibility around guns on the right. So
Mhm.
my broader point is I'm following you on the left. What you're saying about the left is absolutely true,
Mhm.
but help me understand more
Mhm.
what is being manipulated on the right. In fact, I said this last week on your show.
Mhm.
I think the Republicans are going to get absolutely doused this fall in November.
Oh yeah.
And now that makes sense because all the media,
Mhm.
all the agitators, Hollywood, that ridiculous show at the Grammys yesterday,
Mhm.
where they're all bragging about how they hate ICE, and what's going on in the public schools,
Yeah.
kids young and old enough to vote in the colleges. It's been nonstop 12 months.
Mhm.
So there's that. I get that.
Mhm.
But I go back to what I said before, which is I don't think anybody on the right is changing their position. Maybe they're out to win the independents. Fine. I think the independents are going to go in November. Probably 8 out of 10 of them for the Democrats. I'm convinced of this. But that was going to happen I think that was going to happen if none of these things happened. If there was no ICE in the streets, if there was nobody shot, I still think they would have had other things to just go after here. So is the right passive and stupid? I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
No, I think they're nonviolent. I think that
Right.
on the right, we're not just going to go be violent to be violent. We're not just going to go burn up a building and burn up a car. Now, I do think a lot of those people are paid. I have to say that there are a lot that are paid because that's usually the stories the media is running with. But and there are people like that willing to do it without being paid. So I'm saying there's both. But on the right, you're not going to see a whole bunch of people on the right. And you can even go look at all the pro-life marches all the way back. You'll never see the violence and the walking with hatred kind of thing. It's more like we're just standing up for life. Right.
And
so, yeah, you're going to find that on the right.
I use the word passive and stupid. I'm going to stand by that. We're stupid because we don't match their passion. When
I don't know that it's passion as much as it's insanity. Like you have this,
fine.
right?
Fine. That's fine.
Okay.
But sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes you have to, or else the whole damn forest burns down. And we don't do that. I mean, even if, like I said, even if Trump had not done almost any of the things that he's done, I still think we'd get shellacked in the fall because it's an off year. Trump is not on the ballot. Everything's fine because we don't have Biden anymore. That's where I get the stupid on us, right?
Right.
So we our attention flags. We don't vote very strong in these midterm elections. This is the way it is. But I still go back to the question I'm trying to ask here. Is I get it on the left. I see it, and you can see it clearly. And if that Pretty, if he is indeed staged, I'm not arguing with that. If that was all staged, then in our previous conversations, we had talked a lot about how right and left doesn't matter. Right and left is irrelevant. That everybody is being manipulated all the time for the same reasons. I'm struggling to see on the right what the end game is. What is the deep state trying to get the right to do?
Well, if you can portray us as a violent country that needs more government and more police state and more spying and more digital ID so that we're tracked, so that we can be found, so that you can't do anything anonymous. That's the goal. So anytime that you can put out there that we're violent, the country is violent, the country hates each other, the country wants each other dead. You can't even buy something off Marketplace because people are evil and they're out to get you in every corner of the country. I don't think that's true. I think that if you were to travel across the country right now, you'd probably, most of the time, minus 5% of the time, find people to be genuine, nice, give you directions, help you. If your car was broken down, you're probably going to get some people helping you. You're not only 5% of the time are you probably going to find that violent America that the media says is happening all the time. So if you go to a sporting event, if you go to, I don't care what it is, go fly. Everyone's pretty darn nice to each other. Now, TSA forces us to be, yes, but at the same time, they're nice. You're not going to see a lot of fights break out, okay? And you've got a whole combination of people that would never want to be on a plane together even, but everything goes pretty smooth, right? And everyone's pretty nice to each other, that what I've noticed. So if they can sell us a narrative of violence, then they can have reasons to bring on more police state and grow ICE's power. Now, if they grow ICE's power and it flips on us later on, okay, because that's what will happen. Mark my words. I'm usually pretty good at this, but I would say in about 4 or 5 years, maybe even less time, you're going to notice that these government agencies can do what they want to do without a whole lot of rules. And when the government investigates itself, it always finds itself clean of any wrongdoing. You put us in the hands of other people too, that want to see our demise. You're going to see ICE turned on Americans like you and I. And I think people don't believe that. I think there's a healthy, there's no way. But there's a reason they're using ICE to do this. And I think they're going to grow its power. And then I think it will be used against more Americans in the future, depending on who's at the helm too.
I suppose it certainly could happen that way. But I'm still asking the question. I'll pivot on to this question. I've watched a lot of the riots. You and I pay a lot of attention to what's going on in the news.
Sure.
What is ICE doing that's illegal?
Well, so, okay, I'm going to look at the video without red eyes and without blue eyes for a second, okay? Let's just do that really fast, okay? If you look at the video, you have a guy that was very theatrical before, when they started truly filming before, okay? 3 minutes before or whatever. They started, remember, they all started their cameras at the same time. And they caught him on tape. Okay, just happened to. They catch him on tape being very theatrical so that anyone watching, even if you can't hear it, you can see he's all puffed up and doing all these very theatrical moves, and ICE is doing their theatrical moves. And then you've got this, you can tell it's a confrontation. Okay, now for a newbie protester who's a meek little nurse who's smaller than a female, typically, because that's in his pictures, he was always smaller than the girls around him, and he's carrying his dog around. Not normal behavior for somebody like that, okay? But I don't think it's him. I think it's an agent dressed up to be like him, and that's why he's wearing sunglasses too. But you have this.
Wait, real quick. The earlier video that have circulated about him being.
That's what I'm talking about.
You say that's somebody else doing that?
I think it's beyond a bad play. I think it's very theatrical. I think they're doing it overboard, because really look at the picture. What's going on that would even predicate such a enormous response from Preddy, right? He's puffed up and he's angry and he's like pointing his finger and blah, blah, blah. Nothing was really going on at that point. So they didn't even have anybody in custody. They weren't really doing anything. They had just gotten there. They were just standing around. So I thought it was very theatrical. And I thought the agents involved, who I think are assets, pretending to be ICE in this video little mirage, are theatrical as well, because they want everybody to walk away with what? Oh yeah, it was violent. He was violent. Preddy was violent. And then those agents were really were pointing their finger at him and blah, blah, blah. So it was the setup. Then you had the actual thing. Now he had a cell phone and he was standing in the street for quite a while with his cell phone, for minutes with his cell phone. So if they thought he was a problem, they would have immediately gone to him because of the behavior before that. Okay. So they would have immediately said, this is putting us in danger, but they didn't, because they all knew it was a cell phone. Now, when I say this, I'm removing my conservative eyeballs, move away your liberal eyeballs. Just look at the tape. He has a cell phone. They push the chick to the ground. They don't even wonder what's in her backpack, and it's full of stuff. Okay. Gun could be in there, but they don't even care. She's not the object of this play. The girl filming that's standing right there, she's not the object of the play either, because they would have been wondering if she had a gun or what was she doing. Okay. She was there to film, and she was part of the theatrics. They throw him on the ground. There's 6 agents. He's on all fours. They take out his concealed carry and they check it. How could he have been a danger at that point? He wasn't a danger. So the theatrics of this play, this very staged play, are even if you're on all fours and you're not really posing a threat to ICE, they can shoot you. And they can justify it by saying, well, you had a concealed carry, so we can shoot you because we deem that you will pick that up and point it at our face and you are going to shoot us. So it really is, to me, thought crime. So because it's getting all the right. So you asked a question. It's getting the right to take in, oh, well, you can be killed if you're even deemed a threat at all. It's getting that in our mindset, and it's getting us to defend that. Yeah.
But it didn't work with Ashley Babbitt, number one. And number two.
Well, I think that was staged. But.
I know, but it didn't work. But I would also say in this case, there is a theory in law enforcement that's already being cited that if there is reasonable cause to believe you will be attacked. And again, I mean, I go back. This is where I go back to. I have very little sympathy if you are tussling with armed police officers. I mean, does that make me a serf? Does that make me a
no? But
serf?
look at what happened just before that, though. So let's say that in the video, because the right doesn't want to see the video this way. Why? Because on the right, we've been told that he was confronting the officers. But if you really look at the tape, he's helping the woman that got shoved down. Now, again, I think this was a play. I think this was very staged. And so he looks like he's helping somebody, right? And he has a cell phone in his hand. So why didn't they just throw him on the hood of the car or put him on the ground and to see what he was doing? Within seconds, they were shooting him, is what looked like to us, right? And so whoever was playing the role of Alex Pretty, because he doesn't look like Alex Pretty, he's much taller and bigger, muscular. But how they wanted us to view that is that he wasn't going after an officer per se, but he did have a concealed carry. So there's the threat. There's the posed threat that he could take out his gun and do something, but he's getting us they're getting the right to defend that if ICE even feels a threat, not that actually somebody was in the manner of doing something, but if they feel a threat, they can shoot you. That is what I'm saying will be turned against us in 4 or 5 years.
I mean, it's certainly possible.
To me, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I understand. I get it. But I mean, again, they were in a complicated situation. And I'm talking about generally, not necessarily this one instance. I mean, there's a lot of chaos. And the violence from the left is unremitting. Every one of those officers knows that the city and the state is fully square on the side of the protesters, even to the point of violence. And we're just 2 weeks out from the shooting of Rachel Good, right? And what we don't know is what they saw.
Right.
We can see what we see in various camera angles, but we can't see what they saw at the moment.
Yeah.
And so I'm not suggesting we should give the benefit of the doubt to ICE always.
Right.
That's why they have investigations.
So,
including the state of Minnesota is going to conduct their own investigation. That's all good and proper. However, I go back to what I said before, that if nothing else, you are trying to impede the arrest of somebody else.
Okay, but did that happen? So who was being arrested? What was actually going on the ground? Now, keep in mind that they've never said who they were there for. It was a location 2 miles away from the protests the day before, very obscure location in the morning. Okay, so you had to be in the know to know that they were even going to be there. It was in the business district. You would have had to have known they were going to actually be on the ground. So they said they were looking for somebody. Now you have Alex Pretty show up and he's standing in the middle of the street. Why? There's no reason for him to be there because it has nothing to do with monitoring traffic, like the leftists say. But he's just standing there. Okay, so he's got his cell phone. So so one of the agents goes over and violently throws the chick down with the backpack, the full backpack that they didn't care about, to the ground. And it's very theatrical. It looks theatrical, like here's the part in the play where I'm going to shove you. Okay, so she goes down, and then Alex Pretty goes over there. Okay. They're not in the middle of it. ICE isn't in the middle of doing anything. Okay. So they're not like going after somebody. All right. They're not shoving an illegal to the ground or whatever. Because one of the questions I just got in text was, what did ICE do that was illegal? The thing that happened that was everybody should be like, what's going on here? Like, why did they want us to see this particular play played out? Okay. Is because Alex Pretty had a cell phone in his hand. He hadn't reached for a gun, okay? And he was going over to the woman. Now, see, I'm sure the leftists that are watching this on YouTube right now are like, see, a conservative finally understands. Oh, no, honey, that is not what I'm saying, because I think it was staged and you guys don't. Okay, so for all the leftists out there that are drooling at what I'm saying, oh, see, she's telling us that ICE is bad. No, I'm not. What I'm saying is that ICE killed somebody, apparently, I think in a very staged way, but for the sake of this, killed somebody that what was he doing to them to get ICE to kill him? Not just put him on the ground and arrest him, but kill him. I think they wanted us to see it so that the right would defend it, that we would go, well, ICE must have really felt like they were in danger, so it's okay. Now, the danger of that being turned on actual patriots of the country, normal people, normal conservatives that understand what's happening, that is what scares me for the future. I am not defending ICE or prosecuting ICE. I'm saying this was a play. They staged this out to say that ICE, that no one was really had a shot fired or a gun pointed at their head, but they were able to shoot somebody that 6 officers had on the ground and see that's okay. So that the right would go, no, that's okay because he was a crazy leftist. See the clip before? See, he was mad. They wanted us to see that played out, is what I'm saying. And they wanted it to show us that it was all justified. Now, really think about this for a second. What was justified? It was justified that in this case, in this play, somebody died and that it was okay. That's why I fear the future, because if we grow that and not enough conservatives are going, now, wait a second, why did they kill him though? That doesn't make any sense. Why not just arrest him? That's where we're losing. We're like, that narrative is encapsulating the right now. And they're going, hey, if ICE feels threatened, ICE can shoot to kill because these people are nuts. So I mean, that's why I'm trying to be careful. It's like, ooh,
I know, and it's a difficult thing to talk about.
Yeah,
but I'm still struggling, Kate. I got to tell you. I mean,
I know.
If you walk up to a hornet's nest and you stick your head in it, it doesn't matter what you're doing or what you think you're doing. You're going to get stung, right?
Okay, I mean, but with that analogy, though, what was he doing to poke the hornet's nest? I mean, if you really look at the video, he's got the cell phone. He's standing in the street for some strange reason because he's the star of the show. And then they violently push a girl down so he can look like he's going to go and help her. And then all of a sudden he's on all fours and they're shooting him.
I mean, again, I look.
That's where I get lost. I'm like, no, wait a minute.
I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is, we just don't know what they've heard. They don't know what somebody might have said to them. I mean, I maybe this is my black and white approach to certain things, but I go back to what I said earlier in the show. You don't have the right to do that. What he did, that interference, that intervening, that you don't have the legal right to do that. That is not part of legitimate protest. So at that moment, I would be, if I was an ICE agent, way on my toes about this, and knowing that the city that I'm in is actually hoping something like happens to this to you, so they can use it.
Mhm.
And then what had happened two
Mhm.
weeks ago,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think everybody's on edge. But
So
again, it seems to
Mhm.
me,
Okay.
it seems to me
Mhm.
that we have a problem. That this lawlessness, that
Mhm.
that the woman on her knees and the nurse, that Rachel Good, what they were doing is a violation of the First Amendment, not
Mhm.
not an underlining of
Mhm.
it.
So Mhm.
It's dangerous.
Let me
It is illegal, but I'll be done in just a
Mhm. Okay,
second.
okay, sorry.
But the state and the local police won't do it.
Mhm.
They are told to stand down.
Mhm.
Laws are being broken, right? And so
Mhm.
we go back to what I said before. It makes sense to me why Donald Trump initially wanted the National Guard to be in places like Washington, D.C., where nothing bad happened, by the way, or in
Mhm.
Minneapolis or Los
Mhm.
Angeles.
Mhm.
If the local and state police
Mhm.
are basically winking and supporting violence, anti-First Amendment violence,
Mhm.
under the guise of protest, then it seems to me that made perfect sense to me. And
Mhm.
now, but notice, only now,
Mhm.
after the National Guard was taken out, because they
Mhm.
with the guard they couldn't get that close, and there was actually a buffer between ICE and the mob. Well, as soon as they notice what happens, as
Mhm.
soon as that is lifted and
Mhm.
the National Guard is gone, then the left, and maybe the deep state too, but certainly
Mhm.
what the left wants is violent death so they can play on the hearts of Americans to
Mhm.
turn their back on this administration and this
Mhm.
government, which
Yeah.
is also, by the way, a tactic of insurrection. And so the question that is begging in my head:
Mhm.
if I'm Donald Trump
Mhm.
and I have a duty to do vis-a-vis removing some of these criminal aliens, this would be the right time to send the National Guard
Mhm.
in the sense that, okay, you are siding with people who are behaving in many, many ways
Mhm.
unconstitutional and criminal. And if you will not partner with us to
Mhm.
defend the federal agents doing their job, then we will bring our own protection in. And I know 100 times no, that once you do stuff like that, when you're forced into doing things like that, yes, this could become a precedent. This could be a problem. This could be turned on you under the next Democrat president. I get that.
Mhm.
But I go back to what I said right from the beginning of the show. So in situations like this,
Mhm.
the only thing the Fed can do
Mhm.
is surrender. Shucks, we shouldn't have done it. You're a
Mhm.
sanctuary city, so
Uh-huh.
you guys do whatever you want. We're going to leave you alone. That doesn't work
Mhm.
because that's a precedent too.
Oh,
That's another precedent that can
yeah.
be turned on you,
Yeah.
right? Down the
Yeah.
it doesn't just come from the pro constitutional people. It comes the other way too.
Mhm.
And so you're between a rock and a hard place. You either surrender as the feds and allow a state and a city
Mhm. Mhm.
to dictate lawlessness and
Mhm.
insurrection. I'm going to use that word because
Mhm.
that's what it is. And you do nothing about it, which
Mhm.
will breed more insurrection. No doubt about it. Or you defend the guard was pulled out, was told to be pulled out. They pulled out. Seems to me when the insurrection comes, the violence, that makes sense to me that if the state and the city is doing what it's doing, you have a responsibility
Mhm.
to defend the mission of ICE, which is a federal agency,
Mhm.
and to protect the agents from the protesters
Mhm.
that was not happening.
Right.
And so I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
You could, either way you
Mhm.
slice it, you're setting a bad precedent.
Mhm.
Now, we have callers in, that will say, this is wrong. It's not. Okay, fine. It's not in the Constitution. I get it.
Mhm.
However, to simply
Mhm.
surrender to this kind of lawless insurrection by
Mhm.
a state and a city is in my mind as bad or worse as the other side you've been talking about.
Mhm. Okay. There's a couple of things. Now we could get rolling on sanctuary cities, and believe me, I'm anti-sanctuary cities. So, we would have a lot to say about that. But on this, I just want to say a couple of things. If you let's just take the ICE agents and put them to the side for a second. You had a guy that had a cell phone, a square cell phone. So you knew it was a cell phone. Anyone watching the tape can see it's a cell phone. And the officer pushes the woman down, and no one even asks, well, why did he do that? And I think it's theatrics, but why did he just go up to her and just throw her down? So there was a reason they wanted the play, in my mind, this very staged event, to happen the way it did. Because if Alex Preddy goes over and sees if the woman's okay, because that's the story in the press, right? He just wanted to see if the woman was fine. He's a helper. He's a nurse. Feel sorry for him. Okay. So he goes over to see if she's okay. Now take all the ICE agents out. Okay. Did he ever get his gun and wave it? Was the gun ever in his hand? No. And so then a lot of people are like, well, he attacked them. Well, there was a lot of probably in the theatrics staged like tension and conflict. Okay. But I didn't see where there was an attack per se. But then all 6 officers are on him, and he is definitely the star of the show from the very beginning of the rolled tape. And they put him on the ground. Okay. What they're doing is then setting this precedent. They're saying, look, if the officer feels harm, and by the way, in Minnesota, they passed this in a package back in 2020. The use of a car, the use of, like, if the officer even feels like there's a threat, right? And it was all about, what was it? It was the Minnesota statute. Anyways, it was deadly force defined. Okay. And so they had passed some things that in the Rachel Good case that made that what it is. But I think there was, let's put Rachel Good aside. Let's just talk about Alex Preddy for a second, because it's going to get really confusing to people. But I really feel like the staged events that happen, and I think they're staged, and I don't hear a lot of people even wondering if they are, which boggles my mind, but okay. They're there for a reason, to show us something, because they want the right to take one position and the left to take the other. And we fall in line pretty good on that. Like, the right will take this right position and the left will take this crazy leftist position. And so there's not a whole lot of, let's take out those eyeballs. Let's remove the ICE agents from that scene for just a moment, and what was actually playing out. And I think people should ask themselves that. And I'm taking a very libertarian view on this, because I do think it's staged, but also because I think sometimes we get into the right mentality and left mentality. I'm like, if we're okay with what played out and how it played out, there's something kind of wrong with that. And even though they used crazy leftists to do it, ignorant little crazy leftists, we still have to look at the actual thing that happened, kind of go big picture, forest for the trees, and go, now, why did that happen? Why did they want us to see this? Why did it play out this way? Because what are they setting up for us in the future? And the only reason I say that is a long looking at history and seeing how they get stuff to happen is usually a staged event, like the hanging Chad and the need for software. Oh, we need software. Oh, that hanging Chad. Back in 2000, we need software. They have they have the answer already there. And that's the software that was then going to steal every election after 2004 with a flip of a switch. So I'm always going, okay, why are we seeing this? Why is the press and Hollywood all in this? They want us to see this. So what are they teaching the right to defend? And sometimes we get lulled into defending things without really thinking about them, because we go the opposite polar direction of the leftist. But we don't really think about what we're defending. And that's how they get all of us caught up into more government, the presence of this of NSA spying, the presence of a militarized police enforcement of everything. I mean, we get sucked into that on the right. That's all I'm saying, is that we have to be careful on the right, not to get sucked in, but really look at what happened and why, how we're being played in this, because I definitely think we are.
Well, and I am nothing if courteous. 20 years of Catholic school makes me chivalrous. So I think you deserve to have the last word on your own show.
No, I know, not at all. I don't care about that.
I'm not being sarcastic. It's pretty much 4:00. I still struggle with it. I take your point. I get it, but I still do struggle. For me, to my last comment for today is going to be, it's a catch-22, right? On the one hand, the feds have to acknowledge that really the city, not even the state, that the city of Minneapolis is sovereign and able to do whatever the hell they want, regardless what the state or the feds say.
Yeah.
Or insurrections can legally be put down, including with the National Guard, if they're taking place. Now that's the conundrum I see, and I see that both actions, right, surrendering to the city of Minneapolis or bringing in the National Guard to quell those particular violent protests, I see that both are dangerous. I get it. And so for me, and I'll tell you this, I think you would know this from our conversation.
Okay.
I think the least of those two evils would be to allow the violent protesters to go unchecked. To me, that is riot in the streets. It is lawlessness. You can debate whether or not the feds can send in the National Guard, and you can argue that that's not the best policy. But I guarantee you in court that's going to stand up, especially when you're seeing these violent protesters. Okay. I think of the two possibilities. The one that's being pushed is the one you're saying makes perfectly sense. But I just want us to talk about because you always do this. You always say, got to see it with both eyes, not one or the other. And so it's a crisis. It's a constitutional crisis, whether you send the troops in or not, the National Guard. And it's also a constitutional crisis if the state and the city refuse to stop lawlessness in its own streets. That's all.
Amen, brother. Okay. Thank you. Really appreciate you. I really do, because I love these conversations. I really do. I think people learn a lot from these conversations.
I enjoy them very much as well.
You.
So
Thanks,
look forward
Duke.
To seeing you next Monday.
Thank you, Duke. Yes,
Have
of
a good
course. All right. Thank you. So love him. Dr. Duke Show, by the way, Dr. Duke Show. You can catch him. It's funny because we don't, there's so many things that I bring up on the show that he probably wouldn't agree with at all. Okay. But I like him because Duke will come on and he'll state his case. I'll state mine. And I like it because that good conversation happens in front of everybody, which is kind of fun. And I think it's good for people to hear. So that's why I like Duke. Duke and I don't always agree because we see things so differently. I see more things staged than Duke does. I see a lot more theatrics than Duke does. And you can agree with me or not agree with me. And if you don't agree with me, it's okay. I won't melt. But when I'm looking at all of this, if you were to look at that as a play, look at it as something, not a play, that's kind of a bad word for it, just staged, okay? And ask yourself, how did Preddy know that they were going to be there? And why did everybody have their cameras on him? And he was standing in the middle of the street because he's obviously the star of the show. And they didn't care about anyone else because the concealed carry was concealed. So how did they know that he was concealed carry anyway? Okay, because it was under his coat. Why was he wearing sunglasses? Okay, why is it that you can't really see his face? And he looks like him, but he doesn't, because he's got the guy that was playing Alex Preddy had a very, very strong jaw. He's taller than all the agents. Alex Preddy's a little guy. Now we've been over this. I did a 30-minute video going through all these questions and all the questions I had. And this is the thing. I feel like I can look at this and I can go, this is very, very staged. They're using assets to represent themselves as agents, as civilians. Okay. And these civilians now are making the rounds on CNN. Okay. And they're being interviewed. The girl in the pink that, was there and filming, and nobody seemed to care if she had a weapon because, like I said, Alex Preddy had it under his coat. So how did they know it was there? They didn't even take 2 seconds before they shot him. Okay. And I think it was very theatrical shooting. I have to keep saying that because I don't think I don't think anybody wound up dead. Okay. That's what I'm saying. This was theatrical. So why in a few minutes would they deem him such a threat that you'd have to shoot lethal force multiple times with not a lot of blood, but multiple times? Okay. So if you take your eyeballs off of it and you're not a leftist and you're not on the right, what are you seeing happen in front of you? Okay. So what the right should be seeing is that he was killed in quotes, very quickly in front of everybody in under like a 2-minute reel. Okay. So do you want them doing that at, say, people coming to the Capitol? Okay. And doing that at the Capitol? Because if we say it's okay in this case, even though they portrayed Alex Preddy using this asset as a very tension-filled, angry guy, okay, minutes before, okay, then they're going to get away with this when you're protesting on the right. That's all I'm saying is look at it with both eyes, because something's really wrong here as far as the picture we're being shown. And the picture we're being shown is very, if you're on the right, then you should just be okay with it because it's a crazy leftist. But then you have to say, well, what if the person's conservative, truly there for a good reason, then something's wrong. Now, was he impeding? So here's a question from Light Switch. Don't impede, don't get hurt. Okay, well, in this theatrical thing that happened, you see Alex Preddy go to the woman, okay, and then start kind of like getting tension filled with the officers, okay? Impeding an act of arresting somebody, okay? Impeding an act of they're trying to get this illegal and put him on the ground, okay, and do what they're going to do to arrest this illegal in the country. They weren't in the middle of doing anything. Really, at that point, in those few minutes is what I'm saying. So I get that people, okay, I get that people want to go, well, he impeded their actions. He impeded them, so they had the right to kill him. Now, I don't think we should ever say in this country they had the right to kill just because he was in them, that he was doing whatever he was doing. I mean, if he has a gun and it's pointed at the guy who's then arresting somebody, okay, I get that, but we have to actually look at what happened, what they're trying to sell to us. In other words, you have to actually look at that. What are they selling? What are they selling? They're selling the ability to get away with a more enhanced, bigger police force on all of us, okay? They're using the insane, crazy leftists to do it. And so we should be very guarded as to how we protect individual rights here. Because now, because of the concealed carry, it's now going to turn into, can you have a concealed carry at a protest? Because if you have a concealed carry, can that be deemed as you could take your gun out and shoot us, therefore it's a threat? That's what I'm saying. Really look at what happened without the right or the left. Just look at what happened. And they want you to see that for a reason. Okay? He was an unemployed nurse, yes. Was he a crisis actor? Well, I don't know. He worked for the government in administration for a long time. And then he was unemployed as a nurse. That's what they're saying. Okay. And, but the news made it look like he was actively working at the hospital. I don't know. There's some things there, that are really strange about this case. And all I'm saying is that we need to look further on this. What are they setting up for us for the future? They want a completely militarized, they want drones that can shoot first, ask questions later because it deemed a threat. Okay. So what are we getting ourselves into here? All right. If I think that they showed you, they put that reel out there and they just happened to get it on tape, just happened to, this very theatrical, you can tell the body's tensing up and he's getting mad and the officers are getting mad and then he's getting more mad. And I was just like, wow, this is bad acting all the way around. So when I look at the Alex Preddy case, I'm like, how come no one is saying, how come none of the big talk show hosts on the right or the left are saying, was this staged? Because I thought the acting was over the top completely. And I can go back in history and I can show you many, many times when we've said that. And it turned out to be true later on. I think the Ashley Babbitt, I know people want to hang their hat on the Ashley Babbitt case and say, well, the girl was gunned down by the officer, because she was conservative. Look at the Ashley Babbitt case. But when you go through the Ashley Babbitt case step by step through the video, it was very faked. It was very fake. She was just standing there. And of course, Michael Byrd gets off, right? They're not going to prosecute him because he was part of the play. He was part of the theatrics. But they wanted so badly that day to have this fake shooting. She's probably in witness protection. Their kind of witness protection where she gets a new life and gets a payout. They wanted her to die at the Capitol without doing anything, just standing there, okay? Because they were trying to conjure up the crowd outside, and they thought they could. They thought they could on January 6th. They went out, the same guys that never even went to her. There was no blood, by the way. They went to her. They weren't even on the ground trying to revive her. Okay. All they kept saying to the crowd was stand back, stand back, stand back. These guys look like total assets. Stand back. And then they went outside and they shot a woman. And then she was rushed down the stairs and out. Okay. Her body was rushed down the stairs. I think it was very staged. And when you look at the video, you'll see why there wasn't any blood. It was just really strange that she's just laying there and no one's doing a thing to her. Okay. But they're all into these major theatrics of telling the crowd to stand back. And it was really weird. They go out and they're trying to conjure up a violence within the people that are standing around. They're trying to get them mad. You can tell they're trying to get them mad. You can tell they're trying to conjure it up. But the people on the right weren't doing it. So they had feds dressed as MAGA that were doing it. And you'll have a hard time getting the right to be violent unless there's feds dressed up as people on the right, to be frank. So I think that if people want to do an honest take on this video and say, okay, why are we being shown this? Why is Hollywood, and every time they get Hollywood on board, just like they did Blovid COVID, there's usually a lie. So why did they want to do this? And why did they want the right to defend ICE? And only in Minneapolis, did you guys notice this is going on? Where George Floyd, ridiculous George Floyd did his thing. That guy was an informant. So they're only doing it in Minnesota. Do you see? I mean, they're going to try to paint a picture in California, but they're going to show you that ICE is way over the top. So there's multiple reasons as to why they do this. Multiple reasons. So that's why I think it's super, super important to really look with discerning eyes to see what's happening to us, because the more they can get us on to the narratives as believing they are happening, right? And then going and defending, okay? If this would have happened January 6th, that same action by somebody on the right, we would be angry. But because it's somebody on the left, we tend to go, oh, it's okay, it's justified. But all we're doing is justifying something that probably shouldn't have taken place, right? Even though it's theatrics. I hope that's coming across. I really do, because I don't believe that, like when I get this question, what did ICE do that was illegal? I think we have to be really careful as far as, well, illegal, what are we making legal and illegal? If a government agent feels a threat, but they're actually like the perception of a threat, but there really isn't a threat. Okay. Just a feeling of a threat. Well, then it goes into thought crime. So then we're in really weird water because we're identifying, we're trying to say what a threat is too. And in the future, that will work against us for sure. That's not going to work in our favor. Okay. All right. So I'll take a caller. Go ahead, caller. Are you on? No. No, they're not. So that's why I think we need to be real careful about this one, and don't be lulled into believing everything we see with our eyeballs. I think that's very dangerous right now. You know, we live in a very weird AI world, and we live in a world that a lot of things can be shown to us that aren't real and faked and everything else. And I just want us to be super aware of that all the time. And we get lulled into these headlines. And okay, are you there, caller?
Yes, I sure am.
Hey.
It wasn't ICE, it was Border Patrol actually did the murder. Murder is illegal. That's the simple answer to that last question. You're absolutely going in the right direction. The operative term used was police state. In police state, the government can murder indiscriminately for whatever reason it wants to.
Yeah.
Homan, that's now supposedly in charge, actually said that in the good case, the officer can shoot and murder if he believes. It's his belief, not the facts, not what Sherman, Susan Sherman said, I'm sure as well as I did. There has to be imminent risk of serious injury or death, and it has to be the least amount of force necessary to manage the situation. So you could even be imminent. Current present risk is the other term, risk of being seriously injured or murdered. But if you can handle the situation with least force, and they certainly could with her, and if you look at the tape closely, there's a half a second or so the car had actually gone around him before he pulled the trigger. But let's get back to three other points. I want to go really quickly. Dr. Pesta was so completely wrong about the supremacy clause. People keep citing legal terms and laws, and they don't know what they're doing, and they don't not reading them. The supremacy clause says the Constitution is supreme, or the federal government is supreme if their acts are in pursuant of the Constitution. In other words, if it's not Constitution, they have no authority. Thomas Jefferson, Madison, others spoke about this a great deal. All you have to do is read the the Alien Sedition Act of 1798. 1798. It's pretty short. You can read it in 5 minutes, understand in 10 minutes. And they say in there, the null and void any laws that are not constitutional. So it means exactly the opposite of what Dr. Pesta said about that. The history is never an argument for violating, committing injustice. And they keep saying the history or the city wants this. That's the reason they should murder. What real important is, by the way, you were absolutely right about Trump. He has repeatedly said, you can't bring a gun to the into this street, whether it's a protest, can't bring the gun. And he has a huge history of supporting disarming the American people, as I brought up on your show 8-9 years ago, citing and the sources for that. The Insurrection Act, look it up. The Insurrection Act, it's 1807. A couple alterations, but they're both unconstitutional. If you look at the three criteria, none of the criteria are being met. The state has complete authority. This is about going after state rights. When you have no state rights, you're not going to have freedom. One of the most important elements to protect liberty in America is the federalist system that limited the powers of the federal government to enumerated powers, and the 10th Amendment confirmed that. And immunity. Holman, what is his name? Holman said, oh, you have to think that. Now, they're also saying, Vance said that all these agents are immune from any kind of prosecution. That's police state. And you had all these heads of the departments in the Trump administration, from Homeland Security and others, said he was there to murder, he was there to assassinate, and so forth. You're absolutely right. They're setting us up to accept totalitarianism, tyranny.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you. I love your phone call. Thank you. So many things said, and so many things I agree with too, because it's the setup for the future. That's what I'm worried about. So people can go on and they can argue this case, and I can, take. You should see the comments coming in right now on YouTube. Look, if you go at this and you really look and you see the theatrics, it's completely different. You'll see a completely. Just look at the forest for the trees. Take yourself out of, did somebody die or not? I don't think anyone died. I think it was play acted, and play acted for a reason, though. They want us to believe that, and they want us to defend that anyone can get killed, because anyone can really be deemed a threat if ICE or the Border Patrol is doing something and you're there and they deem you a threat, then they can do what they want and be justified. That's not setting a great precedent for the future. I really worry about that for us. So we saw all the lies with January 6th. They lied about it incessantly. They got leftists and paid leftists to believe that, and the media, right, to believe that all these really pretty normal Americans showed up to try to find out what the Electoral College votes were. And that got shoved under the carpet because obviously they tried to portray a whole picture of violence, a whole picture of us being violent, complete with the undercover Fed agent with the horns, dressed up with the horns. He looked like a ridiculous MAGA. He was like, oh, MAGA. I mean, I'm sorry, but I know a lot of people on the right that would never dress like that. I mean, it was just ridiculous, but it was over the top for a reason. And I think he was on the payroll. There's a lot of people on the payroll in this. So they wanted us to walk away. They wanted the people of the country to think that the people went to be violent. And it's really hard to conjure up the right into looking like they're violent. So they had to have almost 300 agents or more dress up and pretend to be somebody they weren't and go along with that. That's not okay. So now on the left, it's really easy because did anything happen at the big march, though, on the day before the Preddy case? No. Too many cameras, too many people, too many eyeballs, but they did it in a very secure location where they could control who was there, control who was filming, control how long it was filmed, not get the unmarked car picking the so-called body up. Okay. The lack of blood, the lack of everything, okay, that you didn't see, right? And so it's a very controlled environment 2 miles away in the morning. And I think that as controlled as you can get being in a public setting. And there weren't that many people. There was no mob. There weren't that many people around. All right. And I showed you a completely left side of the road that was actually empty. So we have to be able to see this and know that we are getting played in this, to accept things that aren't okay, but because it's happening to a blue-haired idiot, or in this case, a violent nurse, okay, with a concealed carry. I'm sorry, but I know a lot of nurses. I don't think you could say the three things about them like that. I don't usually see concealed carry nurses, and I usually don't see concealed carry, just the whole picture they're trying to paint for us in the theatrics. But I just wanted to say that because it was just over the top this time. But of course, people have to write me and go, "You're an idiot. It happened." I'm like, sure it happened. Okay. Prove to me that it happened. Prove to me that it went down the way that it would ever normally go down. Okay. It used to be back in the day that before lethal force was used, a lot of things would play out. Not in this case. See what they're trying to get us to accept? Within seconds, they can shoot you because they just deem you a threat. Well, if we start accepting it, we're in trouble. We're in trouble because that's not go back and look at the video again. It's crazy. Anyway, all a distraction. It is all a distraction. It is all a distraction from everything else going on. And they want us to be on the two sides. You're against ICE or you support ICE and whatever they do. Remember what is the blue narrative? I'm on board with blue, or whatever blue does, it's fine. Like that narrative. Remember that one? And a lot of the right were putting bumper stickers on the back of their cars and saying, oh, well, whatever happens, whatever the blue does is justified. Whatever the blue should be able to do whatever they want. Well, no, they shouldn't. No, they shouldn't. And on the right, that kind of messaging is pretty bad because it's like, no, there's a lot of cops with heavy badges and egos and everything else. And no, they are all subject to scrutiny for violating rights. And we should never be just here's a blank pass because you're in uniform. Here's a blank pass. And I come from family that was law enforcement. Okay. I'm still telling you that we should always have a scrutiny about us that says, well, no, not in that case, that was wrong. That should be prosecuted. They went too far. Okay. Back the blue. That's what it was. Back the blue. We never give a blank check. And why did we say back the blue? Because the liberals, the lefty loonies, and a lot of the paid people on the left were doing the anti-cop thing. So then the right goes, blank check. We can't ever be that dumb. We can't ever be that dumb where we'd go, blank check. Now we're saying that about ICE. Blank check. They get to do whatever they want. And I'm like, no, they don't. And we should, on the right, be scrutinizing big time. Where's the body? Where was the funeral? The media always covers the funerals. Yeah, they don't. They're not covering it in this case. I think I don't know what happened to Alex Preddy, but that guy that was there in the shooting wasn't him. It wasn't him. Go look at it. Line the faces up. It was not him. And it wasn't even close to the new digital, digitized MSN version of him. And you guys get, right, that that our media can manipulate somebody's picture to make them look prettier and we don't say anything. We're like, you can't alter the guy's face, but see, they're doing it in front of us to show us that, oh, it's okay. It's okay. And this is acceptable. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show.
Hi there, Kate.
Hi there.
So the one group that would stand up against this tyranny,
Mm-hmm.
are
Mm-hmm.
the conservatives,
Mm-hmm.
the AKA conservatives,
Mm-hmm.
and the supposed patriots. And they're being co-opted to support this state. It's so ironic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the whole reason that they're being co-opted.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate the call.
And if I may say this.
Sure.
George Orwell said, if you want a picture
Mm-hmm.
of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever.
Yeah. I have that on one of my intro clips. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Sure
I
thing.
love the phone call. Thank you. I'll tell you what, it's funny. I get these messages from all these, I don't know, are they paid people? Are they like paid accounts on YouTube? Are you on drugs? Yes. Do I appear to be on drugs? Oh, these people are so funny. If they're people, they're probably like paid accounts. But anyways, look, that there's so many holes in the story of the Alex Preddy shooting that doing a 30-minute video on it didn't even capture all my questions. Okay. I think it was very play acted, and the guy is much taller than Alex Preddy was. Okay. So I don't know what happened to Alex Preddy, but that is not the guy in the video. Guy has a very square jaw, very muscular. Okay. Look, I really appreciate you tuning in for a different take, because it's going to be hard to find different takes. There's only a few of us out there in media that are actually with a national audience like this that are willing to speculate as to whether something is staged or not. Now, if you notice on the left and the right, they're taking it as completely believable, completely like 100% believe it went down. And now why? Why is it? Why? Now you have to discuss who is to blame instead of saying, is the whole thing staged and why? I think we should be looking at that. I think we should be asking those questions over and over and over again with everything that happens. Whenever Hollywood, media, government are all on the same page, you're in trouble because they're lying to you. Just like they did with COVID, because it blows. COVID, just like they did with Syria. Assad wasn't gassing his people, just like they did with, oh my gosh, just name something. Okay. So many lies and so much deception. And now it's theatrical deception, has been for a long time, but now it's just straight up deception in your face. So I think we should recognize that. You'll see things a lot different when you do. And that's why I was able to nail down so many different things on that. Now, I had Dr. Brian Ardis on last week, and I'll tell you what, go to Tolavita, which is TOLEVITA.com. Tolavita patches, nicotine patches, and the 3 milligram ones are on, are there. And you can actually, they're like these little dots. You can just, a little sticker, and you can just wear one every 24 hours. And what that does is it actually helps release the cell of toxins, which is so crazy, I know, but we have just been not trained in medical things for so long that saying that a nicotine patch can actually help with dementia and help with what they're calling long COVID, but it's just illness like it always is. That sounds crazy, but it's not when you hear the science explained. So you can go back to those clips and listen to that because it's so important. And I'll tell you, those patches are great. They're phenomenal. I've worn them. Merritt wears them, and now I'm getting the little 3 milligram one because these ones are natural. They're a natural patch, so it doesn't make you jittery. There's nothing like that. It just helps release the toxins from the cell, and this is why 200 companies are trying to outlaw it. And this is why little Timmy and Walls and Hormala were trying to get it by prescription only so that you couldn't go do that for yourself. So those patches are huge. So go to Tolavita, TOLE Vita, VITA, and the Tolavita patches and order those. And it's like $13 a month, like so cheap. To really help your health, actually, and get your body clean of those toxins. The other thing is I'm drinking, of course, Cardio Miracle today. I drink this every day, and it actually helps me lose weight because I feel full. And so I always have this during the show, after the show, before the show, but I'm always drinking this. This is a double. This is like 2 scoops actually in here. And I do this daily because it's helping me so much. So cardiomiracle.com/Kate. You can also use Kate on the Tolavita patches. If you go to Dr. Brian Ardis's website, the doctor, like DR, the Dr. Ardis, ARDIS show, SHOW.com. If you go there, you can actually use the code Kate now, and you can get his supplement that he takes. So for all you guys over the age of 40, this might be the supplement that you want because he constructed the supplement, put it all into one. Okay. So you can go get that, and you can get 10% off with the code Kate. Always the code Kate. My pillow is having some killer deals right now. So is Formula FIQ. And Formula FIQ, use the code word Kate, but that's where I get my supplements. Okay. So much to say, but this person is saying, I got Dr. Ardis's nicotine, the natural patches. Yeah, those, and they're great. That's the ones I'm talking about, Tolavita. They're natural. They're all made of natural things. So it is a nicotine patch that has to do with our nicotine receptors in our bodies. Okay. So important, especially with dementia. Have you noticed dementia's on the rise? Have you noticed that dementia is huge right now with everybody? And there's a reason for that. And so we can actually help that. And if it's a little patch, why wouldn't you try it? Just try it out. My gosh, $13. Do you have much to lose? But feel better. So code word is Kate, but do it. Do anything you can to help your health right now. We need all hands on deck, and we need true people, patriots that actually understand what's happening in this country. Please, we need you. And health is a huge concern because if you've noticed since about the 1920s, 1905 really, but 1920s, there's been a concerted effort to make us unhealthy. And we are a very unhealthy people. And we have to get that under control. So, all right. So there's that. And of course, if you want to do ivermectin, fenbendazole, if you want to have some things that at your disposal, like some antibiotics, okay, or for trading antibiotics or for trading for anything, okay, if crap hits the fan, then make sure and go to allfamilypharmacy.com and /Kate, and you'll get those things for a discount right now in February. You'll get those things, and also they'll be sent to your door, and you don't have to go find a doctor to write you scripts for them and order extra. And I would actually have physical product in my home. I would. I think you should. I think you should have physical product in your home. Things that are tangible. Okay. And gold and silver, we didn't even get to that today. I'll try to do that tomorrow. I also have some tape on Epstein. I have some tape about him talking about the Rockefellers and the Trilateral Commission, and it's kind of intriguing. So I'll play that for you tomorrow. But we got to get healthy, guys. There's too many people, and you know what? What's hard about this is if our health is bad, it takes us away from trying to fight all of this, trying to do something about it, and being even interested enough with enough energy to try to spread the word. And I get that because I feel that sometimes, right? So we need you. We really need you. And I do appreciate the conversations I have with Dr. Pesta. We don't always agree. I'm always looking things 10 layers deep for me. I try to bring that to the show and tell you what I see and what I'm thinking. Because when COVID first came out, everyone thought I was nuts. You know, a little bit like some of these messages I'm getting right now from all these leftists on my page, on my Facebook, or not Facebook, YouTube. And they love to go after me. It's so funny. And I was calling it out from day one. How did I know? How did I know that we were being scammed on COVID? Oh, I've done shows on that, but I knew. And so on this, we're being scammed on this. We're being played heavily, and I just want us to see it. We're also being played on the Greenland thing too, and they're trying to turn us into a region without us knowing. And I really do think we need open eyeballs for that, because we're not getting that right one either. Where there's nothing to be afraid of when we're the biggest dog in the park. Okay, they can't conjure up a fear. Okay, it's turning us into a region. So there's that. All right. Okay. Well, I sure appreciate you guys, and I'll take calls tomorrow. So you guys can surely call in tomorrow, and we'll do that. All right. Really appreciate you guys. Make sure you call in. It's 435-680-2503. Call in number is always on the ticker below. And you guys know it just because you're listening to the show, but I really, really appreciate you. And yes, I'll have Suzanne on soon. I'll give her a call today too. So appreciate you guys. Thank you. Be faithful, be fearless. If you want to keep me on the air with a different point of view, because I'm not bought like all the other people in media, most everybody, then support the show. Support the show, please. And go to the sponsors, because that keeps me on the air. If you're taking Cardio Miracle with me and you're going to see the health benefits, that's a great way to support the show. So, but you're getting a product for it. You're not just giving me the money for it. You're getting a product. I like that. And I'm only going to tell you about the things I do personally. Otherwise, I wouldn't tell you about them. Do you know how many people I've turned down for sponsorships on this show? Can I even tell you? And no, we didn't have a Cold War. And yes, there was a problem with the Titanic, but it isn't what people think. And yes, I question nukes generally because it's been a fear for 80 years. And yes, COVID was a scam. And if you want to listen to what I have to say about everything and get why, maybe we'll all learn a lot. I don't know. There you go. That's all I can do is give you, after 38,000 hours of research, I can give you what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking coming out of this, right? You guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Appreciate you. Visit the sponsors and get that Recuperate Copper too, please, from Formula FIQ. Recuperate Copper. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate you.